the live music industry in the UK at the moment is operating at less than 1%.
Hello, welcome to the next instalment of Moving the Spotlight, and this week I am joined by a very good friend of mine, Charlie Cole. Charlie boy, Charlie, whatever you want to call him. So I'm going to bring him in right now. Here he comes. There he is, Mr. Charles, and all his bearded wonderfulness, mate. Look at you, you beauty. Hey, you're not feeling well, are you, mate? You've got the Rona.
No, not too well.
Oh, mate, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But yeah, mate, we're going to go through some stuff for you. So we'll kick right off, buddy. How do you know of kind of me and Blue Nation, mate? When did you first meet us, actually?
I can't remember the first time I met Blue Nation, but I think I met you.
Was it in the pub?
No, I think it was at a Gundogs show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think it might was it when you met your wife?
It could have been, mate, yeah. Was she playing with Adam and Casino, maybe? Supporting them when you're doing the sound for them?
I think I was.
Oh, I see, mate, that was years ago, wasn't it? That must have been the actress then. And then we must have got drunk after.
It was. It was. I remember it well because I did some guitar tech work for them, and I tuned their guitars all to A.
And I'm assuming
So
that
I had to
wasn't the
tune
right.
it wrong.
Yeah. It's alright, mate. I do that too all the time. She'll pick up a guitar at home and she'll be like, "Why's this guitar in D? Or why is this in E?" I was like, sorry."
I thought it was a violin.
Yeah, exactly. It's the guitar fairies. Oh man, so yeah, a lot of people have literally just done another interview with my mate Si, and he said he met me through the other half. So I've met a lot of people through that way. So yeah, so when do you remember the first time you heard us play then, Blue Nation? Was it with Trev, Canadian Trev?
It might have been with Canadian Trev. I think you were a support for Casino, and I think
Yeah,
it might have been with old Trev. Um, but he was a long time ago.
it was, wasn't it? Jesus, mate, we're getting old now. We've all grown up and stuff like that. It's madness, isn't it? So,
Yeah,
so what we're doing here, mate? Obviously, we're moving the spotlight. It's not about me. It's not about Blue Nation. You'll be surprised to know, which normally it is. This is more about kind of we're doing stuff about the industry and people in the industry. So, what? Because I call you obviously you're just Charlie to me, mate. What are you? A sound person, sound man, sound boy, sound engineer? What's your official job title you go by, mate?
I get. Yeah, I guess it's just a sound engineer.
Sound engineer, front of house sound or monitor? Because you do all of it, don't you?
Yeah, I predominantly front of house. I
Yeah.
prefer front of house. I prefer doing an audience mix. But I've toured as a monitor engineer for some artists.
How long have you done this then for? Because God, I've known you for what 10 plus years, mate. Were you doing it before that as well?
Well, I started as a T boy in a studio when I was 15.
Oh, mate, T Boy. Whose studio was that? Can you say?
I can't even remember the name of it.
So the studio's
It
going well
wasn't
then,
so
yeah?
much a studio as a shed
A shed.
with some speakers in.
No way.
Um, but yeah, and I sort of did that sort of thing. And a friend of mine, we set up a studio in Erdington called Fist Studios. Lasted for maybe a year
Why do I not know
uh,
about any of this?
before business rates went
For the roof.
through the roof, and yeah, and they went, you can't do this. It was supposed to be a rehearsal complex, and it was, we were building it from the ground up.
Yeah, yeah.
Didn't have any money really. It was a nice idea, but
Oh, mate,
yeah.
that's what it's full of, isn't it? Nice ideas and, a lot of hard work behind it. So explain to people in front of house then, obviously, because some people watching this won't know. I know what they are, obviously, but what do you do as a front of house engineer, buddy?
Well, on a big show, you'd have a few sound engineers really.
Yeah.
So you'd have a front of house engineer who looks after the audience mix. So the person in the middle of the room, at the back of the room, that's mixing the show for the audience on the floor, in the seats, stands, balconies, wherever.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and you'd have a monitor engineer, completely separate person on the side of the stage, who's mixing the stage sound for the artists on stage. And obviously these days that includes in-ear monitor systems. So what you hear in your little headphones.
Yeah, you know me, mate, with my in ears and what I want. I think I use the phrase to most monitor engineers, and that's bollock, of bass drum, which is obviously a technical term. That, but you know what I mean when I say that to you, don't you? When you've done monitors in front of the house for us before, you've been all right,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think especially in-ear monitoring is a very personal thing because
Yeah.
it's very personal to what that person thinks they want to hear. And as a monitor engineer, you need to be able to decipher some of the jargon because they might not be able to tell you in a frequency term or anything of what they actually mean. They might go, "It sounds round.
Oh, but I've never done anything like that in my
It
life.
sounds too round."
I think I've used like harsh and stuff like that, or too muddy. I think that
Yeah,
I'd probably use
yeah.
those terms.
It's the same sort of it's deciphering what sort of
What they
people
want.
yeah.
Oh man, see, I hope people are learning stuff because we normally just give Charlie a load of abuse when he's doing sound for us, and he's make it sound better, Charlie. No, we don't. We're all right to work with, aren't we, Charlie?
You're a great band to work
Yeah,
with.
we're nice. We're nice. We're ruled by my dad. He makes sure we're there on time and makes sure we don't mess about in sound check.
It starts by being a good band. If you've got a good band, the rest of it's pretty easy.
Well, yeah, all
As
makes
long as you
sense,
haven't
doesn't
got
it?
too many egos.
Oh, well, we've got them, mate. Christ alive, we've got me and Luke for starters. Ben's the only one that's actually probably the most talented and doesn't have an ego. He's just nice and sits at the back. So, did you always want to be like a sound engineer, or did you kind of like fall into it?
I sort of I went to my first concerts when I was about 14, 15. And back then, the only place to really go in the Midlands for a half decent concert was Wolf Civic Hall.
Oh yeah. Do you remember who you
Was
saw?
I can't really remember. I remember I saw Slipknot
Oh my god.
at the Civic Hall. Yeah, it might have been about no 98,
Yeah.
97, 98. Something.
Yeah, when people used to go to gigs, mate.
Yeah, remember them.
Did
Uh,
you get the bug? Did you get the bug like from going to live gigs? Then is that where it kind of
I,
manifested for you?
I enjoyed the show, and then I saw this guy at the back of the room with all these flashing lights and knobs and buttons. And I was really interested in what he was doing, and I was like, I want to know what it all does.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've always been quite a fan of like the equipment and stuff like that. You know, I'm
Geeky.
always, yeah, I'm a real sort of techie person with just sort of the kit and stuff like that. I'm a
Yeah,
big,
yeah, definitely are, mate. I mean, I remember what you've shown. I still don't know what it's called. I just say that thing you told me to put into my back of my amp.
yeah,
And I remember you came up to me and you said, "Look, you should really have this in your back of your amps, and you can get the real sound from the amp, and then put it through the desk." And I was like, "Charlie, you speak to the wrong person here." I was like, so I said, "Dad, Charlie wants to tell you about something we need on my amp." And you told him, and I swear to God, mate, it literally revolutionised my sound. Because the sound, man, every sound person we've spoken to and gone to engineer have gone like, "This is amazing. I've got so much control over it that I can just like feed it through." So yeah, I do credit you, mate, every time I speak to someone about that, and they ask what it is, and I'm like, "Don't ask me, I don't know." Yeah, it's always the way. So did you just? So how'd you get? So for people, obviously, because people will know about sound engineers probably, and then they see this person sitting in the or standing or have like barriers around them and
yeah.
loads of faders and stuff. How do you learn how to do that? Is it just by trial and error, or have you done courses? How did you kind of take it up, mate?
I think it was a bit of both, didn't me? I
Yeah,
mean, I did a bit of the studio stuff, and obviously that I learned a bit. That I went to college. I studied at Sandwell College.
yeah,
At the time, was a brilliant college for that. I studied sound engineering and music production. I never finished the course because I went to go and set up a studio, which then ultimately failed. Um, but I actually got quite bored of doing the studio stuff.
yeah,
Studios are still lovely places to be. It's lovely to be in the studios, but they can be quite dull.
yeah.
Sitting in there for very long days, listening to the same thing over and over again. It's not so exciting sometimes. It can be a very creative space, but not always.
It sounds
So,
far more exciting, doesn't it, the studio, than it actually is?
yeah,
Because I know a lot of people ask us, they say, "Oh God, I'd love to be in the studio with you." I said, "It's mind numbing." I said, "When you've listened to the same snare or the same part of a song hundreds of times and you're not quite sure what's wrong with it, or you can hear something that's wrong and you have to do it again and again and again, it does get monotonous." Now, yeah, but isn't it really exciting? I said, "Yeah, it is. When you finally get there, but when you've listened to the song so much, you never want to hear it ever again."
You walk out there and go, that's putting that to rest for a month.
Yeah,
Listen
yeah.
to it.
You need to give your ears a rest, which was one of the main things I learned. Is that because if you just want to get it done, but you have to like rest your ears. Do you get that like with doing gigs as well? Then do you have to
Yeah,
like give yourself a break?
yeah. I mean, it's especially long tours. If you're away for quite a long time, and you're listening to say the same 10 or 20 song set
Yeah,
list, um, you can be a bit, you know, 3 months into it, you might be forgetting where you're at, where you are. But I mean, tours are a bit blinding anyway. You might
yeah,
lose where you are anyway.
yeah.
Um,
Because you get that. We get that when we've done like kind of like 10 or 12 dates around the UK. Like we stay in the same kind of like chain of hotels, and it's like every room is literally the same, and you
yeah.
just forget the room number you're in. And
Oh,
do you know what, mate? Honestly, I've had to write them on my hand before, so I'm just like, oh my god, and you remember the room number from 4 nights ago, and you're like, oh
I,
shit, it's like, where, what room am I in?
I've lost in so many hotels. I've been on the wrong floor. I mean, I've been in the wrong hotel before. It was
Really?
on the other side of the street. I,
Oh mate, I'm not thinking that quite bad just yet, not yet.
yeah,
So what kind of so obviously the venues you do for us are probably a lot smaller than what you've done in the past. But what's the benefit of doing a small gig? Let's say, like I say, 100, 200, 200, and what's the benefit of doing like a thousands of people? What's the differences as well you have to go through, buddy?
I love small shows. I
Yeah,
think they're still a great thing because you always get a great energy,
yeah.
and people are packed in like sardines, and somebody's forgotten about fire regulations, and it's, it's
Load of amp cases against the fire exit,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. All of those. You open the fire exit door, and it's just a sea of cases. And, yeah, but there's something to be said about it. Like it's there's just a great, powerful sort of experience.
mm,
You're not as an audio engineer, you're not as in control as much of the sound.
yeah,
So there's quite a lot coming off the stage in the smaller spaces. So you're sort of adding to it and sort of amplifying everything that's there, so it all fits. And
yeah,
the idea, effectively, the idea of an audio engineer is to make sure that everybody in the room has the same experience, so the same sound, the same feeling from the front to the back, side to side, which isn't always possible because physics doesn't always allow us
See,
those
mate,
things. But
I haven't given you enough credit after all these years, mate. I just think thought you put the faders up. I didn't think you were thinking about physics. Jesus. I just was like, oh, Charlie, can you make me sound better? And you do,
a
to
lot
be
of people
fair.
I work with, they have advanced degrees in physics, and
Really?
yeah,
Oh, mate,
yeah,
right. Is that like sound waves and bounce and stuff? Because I did a sound course once just to kind of get my head around it about how the waves travel and white noise and pink noise and all that kind of stuff. And just because I thought if I know more, then I can control my sound a bit better and not just turn it up when you ask me to turn it down. Um, Guitar amp that is. So is that do you have to be kind of really scientific about it? And like if you've got an issue on
I think
stage and stuff.
I think it's something that obviously when you start off with, you might not really see. I think I've picked up a lot of things over
Yeah,
the course of my career, um, but it's something I'm quite into. I think it can only help if
yeah,
you might not be able to control anything about it, especially if you're in a smaller bar sort of environment, they probably haven't got the facilities to do a lot of the processing we would have on a larger show. But then at the same time, it probably doesn't need it either.
yeah, yeah. So what's it like doing a live show with thousands of people, mate? Can you remember your very first one you did?
Um, yeah, sort of.
Were you blind drunk? It sounds like you were.
All a bit of a blur, really. We were a support act. I think it was like a club gig of like a couple of thousand people.
Yeah.
And we only had a 25-minute set. And I think I jumped on, and by the time I'd really thought about it, it was all over.
What's been your biggest gig, audience wise, that you've done the sound for?
I did a show in 2019, summer of 2019. We did the Grass Pop metal meet in Belgium.
No way.
Um, on the main stage, and we packed the arena up to 50,000 people.
Oh, mate. Please tell me you were nervous before that gig and you were sitting there going, "Ooh,"
Um, no,
or
I
were
was,
you not?
I, yeah, no. I think you always. I think everybody still get like butterflies. I'm sure you do, even if you're walking
Yeah,
on
yeah,
to 10 people or 10,000. Everybody still gets. There's a little bit of nerves, but once you're into the second song, you're away.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean that was quite a large show, but it was a festival setting, so it was a little bit different. We were on for about an hour and 10 minutes. Um, I think we were on just before Testament.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
Jesus,
But
mate. So
it was.
what?
I'll tell you that it was a great festival, great production, great setup. It was, yeah, but very impressive compared to the to some of the stuff we have in the UK.
Does that make it much easier for you when like the? Because obviously, actually, that's a good point. I'm going to change my question completely, mate. So explain a little bit about what it's like to do sound at like your own headline gig and then a festival, because I don't think people understand the differences from festivals to your own gig.
Okay, well, your own gig. I mean, we last few years, obviously before 2020,
Yeah, forget
um,
2020.
doing a lot of festivals, large theatres, large club gigs, some small arenas and stuff like that.
Yeah,
We were doing headlots, like headline slots. Um, but what we actually got to do was you bring everything with you, so everything is yours. So for the arenas and the theatre shows, right down to bringing a stage. So there had to be a production company to come in to put a stage into the space, to hang the lighting systems, to hang the PAs. We took about £1 million of PA with us. Um, and then obviously there's an entire other team of people,
yeah.
the touring production that sort of comes with you to set it up. The first day I was in Germany a few years ago, and I met a guy. I turned up and I met my systems technician who was going to be looking after me for the next couple of weeks. A guy called Yanis, a fantastic bloke, absolutely, absolutely lovely bloke.
Yeah, yeah.
Came in and we were in this huge theatre um, called the Admiral's Palace in Berlin, and they put this PA in and they got it all in. So then I was like, oh, it's great. And there was delay hangs, so there was lots of different hangs of speakers all over the room and stuff like that. I was like, what time did you get in? It was like, by this time, it was about 11 o'clock. And he went, oh, 7. I was like, you got all this? And he went, no, 7 last night.
Oh my god.
So they'd be there all night pulling it in. And he'd emailed me in the morning so I could send over my show files. So when I turned up there, my console was set up with my scenes loaded and everything ready to go.
No way.
Yeah.
That's amazing, and I don't think people appreciate that kind of work that goes. I think they know, yeah, because when I was in a band, I used to go to shows and stuff. You just turn up and everything's there, video walls, the lot, the sound and stuff, and it just happens and you walk away. But I don't think people realise the amount of work it goes into, and then shifting that stuff to the next venue, which is the next night.
Well, you've got say if you do, we're Midlands boys. If you do a show at the NIA,
Yeah,
you turn up, you load in at 4 a.m. in the morning. Um, the stage gets built on one side of the room while the lighting system goes up on the other, and then they wheel the stage under the lights. Um, but you'll have a touring production of maybe 20 people,
yeah,
and the rest is then local crew who are sort of told where to be and what to do, and obviously outside security firms, and obviously, there's hundreds and hundreds of people who end up being involved in the build. For it to all go up, do a show, then it gets torn down in 3 hours onto trucks that drive to the next venue and unload it again.
So that one you did where the guy was up at like 7 the night before. How? Because you guys do it in weight, don't you? Like the amount of trucks you got, how many tons in it? Is that? Am I right in that?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. How big was that one?
I don't know.
It was just
Fucking a lot.
massive.
I was sort of a white glove engineer on that, so I didn't actually see that much.
He was just like, set this up for me. Let me
I,
sit down and do it.
I flew into Germany the day before, and then spent the night in a very nice hotel, and then drove to the venue.
Mate,
Um,
you're living a better life than me, and I'm the bloody front man in a band. That's
yeah,
crazy.
it took me a long time to get here.
No, it did, mate. No, I know. And so that's when you've got your own gig like that. That's like you're in complete control. You've got that kind of minute detail of stuff. What about
We,
festivals? Explain to people how festivals work, because I don't think
you
people
turn
get it.
up and everything is there, but you're under someone else's dictatorship, really. So as opposed to you sort of running the show and saying, these are our times, this is what we've got, this is how production's going to run. Well, if it runs over, it's our show. So support bands will get what they're given and
Yeah.
all those sort of things. But it's a festival, everybody's in the same boat. So if you go over, if you run over, you could be fined. The usual fines are about £1,000 a minute
Yeah.
if you run over set times. Um, so, finish 5 minutes early, please.
£5 5 minutes over, and it's never 5 minutes, is it, Charlie? It's a good 15 if people go over. It's like
If go away,
they don't do it deliberately, do they? It's like,
but yeah, you're sort of under everybody else. So you're sort of ferried on. You don't get sound checks. You get a bit of a line check before you sort of go on to make sure everything's sort of there, and off you go. And we're sort of basically mixing it in the first song, so it sounds all right. But you never know really what's going to happen.
yeah.
So it's always a bit of a tense moment just before the band come on, because who knows?
Festivals are always like that, especially like with a band when you're playing it. When you do a festival, especially a large festival, like the good ones, you can set your gear up behind, and then just kind of they have it on the turntable. It kind of comes in, or
Yep.
they put it on the trucks and bring it in and stuff like that. But Christ, we've been at festivals where literally it's like no one gets anything. It's plug in the first, as you say, the first song is the sound check, and you
Yep.
can hear nothing. Because to be fair, like people like yourself, you trying to get it out there, and the monitor guy's going to get it. So by the end of the song, you kind of can hear everything. So never judge a band on their first song at a festival, guys. Especially middle of, the first band, absolutely hunky dory. Because before they let the people in, it's great, isn't it, mate? If your first band on,
It's 2 hours sound
yeah,
check.
you can do it. So what's the hardest bit of your job, mate? Would you say, as a sound engineer?
I don't know. There's lots of elements which you could consider hard, but probably aren't that hard. I'm away from home quite a lot.
Yeah.
That's quite hard. I have a young family, so I miss them a lot.
Yeah, of course.
It's been great lately. I've got to see them loads. Like, get rid of me.
It's like months at a time for you, though, isn't it? As you say, if you're on a 3-month tour or something, and it's worldwide. Do you ever find you live from Wi-Fi spot to Wi-Fi spot?
If the venue doesn't have Wi-Fi, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
We did I've done it a few times now. The most prestigious venue in Moscow, and they don't have Wi-Fi.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah. And it was because the KGB headquarters are directly next to the building.
Ah, okay. I kind of get that, mate. I mean, the place is bugged to an inch of its life, but hey, it's like...
Nobody's phones worked properly when we were there.
Yeah, I bet they didn't.
They were all glitching out, and you couldn't call people, and it just wouldn't work. The best bit, I don't know. I like it when it's right. When the band are on fire and they're having a great time, you can see they're enjoying it on stage. And, the mix just comes out and you're like, that's exactly where I want it to be.
Yeah.
And just, it's come to that point where I'm enjoying it with the audience then. And, I want to see the band tear it apart, and I want to see the audience sort of reciprocate. And, the roar of the audience, that bit when just as the band come on and the crowd light up.
Or are you just like zoned out, like making sure it's all right at that point?
I think I sort of settle in the, probably around the second to third song. So I settle in, I'll get comfortable, and we know everything works, everything's around about where I want it. We're now just sort of fine tuning things to make sure it's as tight sounding or has as much space as we want it to in the mix, so we can hear each element clearly in its own space. But yeah, once we're there, it's just an enjoyable experience then.
Oh, totally, mate. Have you ever had anyone come up to you saying they're a sound engineer? Can I have a go? Have you ever had that?
Yeah.
I thought you had. I mean, why is it that people, right? Because we get it, like, if you're at the merch stand or, at the end of the gig or something, or, someone catches you, they're waiting outside before you sound check, they're saying, oh, I'll play guitar, can I have a go? It's like, yeah, I'm just going to hand over a £7,000 guitar to a complete and utter stranger to have a go. Why do they do it to, like, sound engineers and lighting engineers? It's like, oh, can I have it?
I've always said exactly the same thing. I always get the leaners, so they lean over the barrier, craning, just to have a look. And they're like, oh, can I have a go? Go on then. And I was sitting there with not a clue. Um, so yeah, but I've never walked up to a brickie and told him how to build a wall.
You'd be a brave man if you did, mate. To be fair, probably
Yeah,
smash you out. No, it's a really interesting one. I see it all the time. Like when the other half's DJing or when she DJs as well, loads of people would come and go, I can have a go. I was like, what do you do for a living? Oh, I work with computers. What do you do with computers? I'll fix them. Can I fix one of your computers? Oh, no, that's not allowed. Same process here, mate. See you later. It's just like, it just makes no sense, does it? So, you talked about, mate, the loads of people obviously involved in setting up gigs, which I know there is, and they're all behind the scenes and they're never really seen by the public, especially the audience and stuff. So, how the hell has like COVID and the pandemic affected you, buddy, and stuff? Because there's no live shows going on, is it? So,
well, yeah, well, my last show was March March 17th,
oh,
2020. And I've not done a show since.
shit, yeah,
Uh,
ours was end of Feb.
I've done a couple of little bits, and I've done I've been doing some learning. So been doing some courses and some training and all of those sort of things to keep me occupied. And
Yeah,
I mean, I own a production company, so I have some consoles and stuff like that to practice on and do just mess around with just to keep me interested.
keep your hand in, mate. Keep your hand in. You might be working with a Birmingham band pretty soon, mightn't you? I've heard. Apparently, the lead singer's a bit of an idiot, but we'll
Right winder.
yeah. No, but that, mate, it's like I think this is what people can attach themselves to musicians and like and to us. They've definitely it must be so bad, not being playing live. And we did a social distance gig in October and all that, which was great, but out there. But I think people do forget about the people that make the shows actually happen. Is the front of house, the people who do merch, the ticket people, the security, because without any of them, the gig don't happen. So
Well, just as a little thought, I did a bit of research. This is around about October of last year, and I spoke to our various forums and our higher up bodies and stuff like that in the UK entertainment industries and stuff like that. And the live music industry in the UK at the moment is operating at less than 1%. The music industry on its own is 5.2 billion. That's without obviously the security firms,
yeah,
the catering companies, the haulage companies, and all the other ones that are involved in the making of the shows.
it's absolutely criminal. I know a lot of the protests and musicians union and everyone is trying to do stuff as well, but
Yeah, there's been an entire lack of support for
massive.
the companies, the supply chain, and obviously the people themselves. Is we've barely seen anything. Although the government have managed to bail out the TV networks, they've refused to bail out the music industry.
We've got mates who are roadies, guitar techs, drum techs, sessioners as well, session musicians, and we're going to speak to those people as well to try and so they can get their point across of what's going on as well. But
We talk to people who have been in the industry for 45, 50 years.
yeah,
They've built their entire companies, and now their companies are going under, and the government are telling them to retrain as something else. Um, so yeah, the We Make Events campaign is a good thing to do. So hashtag We Make Events.
okay, cool. We'll stick all the links into it as well into the video so people can check it out and link to it as well.
Please do slap them all on at the end,
Yeah, definitely.
and write to your MPs.
Yeah.
We're not going to get this by sort of arguing or rebelling or anything. I think we're too wise to do these sort of things. I think the only way we're going to do it is by following a protocol, which is to go to our MPs. We have some bodies that are gathering these sort of petitions and stuff like that. We're gathering MPs' information and they're presenting them to the government on a regular basis. So we just need to keep the pressure on as much as we can.
Keep the pressure on, and there's loads of movements that need kind of this voice. So if you do go to gigs, if you do go to things, people, then you look, support it, go for it, because what's good
Mate,
for
they're
the
going to be very happy to see some shows
yeah
when they when we can and it's safe to.
yeah it
Obviously,
has to, of
I don't think we should do anything until it's safe to.
course.
Um, we have to be respectful of the situation. But no, the first show I do when I'm back, I'm getting a tip jar. Uh,
Yeah. What's kind of the one bit of advice? So if you went back to yourself as a wee youngster at that Slipknot gig, what's the one bit of or best bit of advice you'd give them to get into it?
your best bit of advice to get into, I would say, don't college course. There are lots and lots of college courses and
Yeah.
university courses out there and stuff like that. Feel free to do them if you want to. I never got to where I was because of the course. I did a bit of a course, but I never completed it.
Yeah.
I did it by sort of I approached bars and asked if they needed an engineer, and I worked for free
Yeah.
doing live shows for about 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
It sounds
Um,
very reminiscent to being a musician, mate.
you play shows for free for a few years until somebody gives you a tenner,
Yeah.
and um, and you sort of, but in that time, you sort of you learn. I mean, whatever you learn on paper or in theory, and some of these courses and stuff like that are a lot of them are aimed much more at studio work than they would be at live work.
Yeah.
And although you use the same tools, you use the tools in a completely different way. Um,
Yeah.
so I think a bit of a mixture of both. If you can get an education with it, so you can understand the principles, especially the physics, which is a very big thing these days. And obviously, the way we do audio these days has changed. We don't use analog stuff so much at all anymore.
Mm.
So it's all digital. We use a lot of networking. So networking protocol is quite a big thing these days, um, and that's for audio, lighting, and video. Um,
That's
but
cool.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that mate, it's great advice. I wouldn't have thought about it that way. I would have said like do a course and stuff, but I think you can't really replicate in a classroom when a guitar amp or a PA subwoofer blows up or something happens, and the band on stage and the manager are looking at you to go, can you fix this pretty quick? Because the show can't go ahead without it. Because that's you've got to go through that, haven't you? You've got to.
I set some subs on fire. I did do that because I didn't really know what I was doing,
Yeah.
because I hadn't quite worked out the math. Uh,
Like,
when I was
where did
younger,
you do that? I don't know that. Where did you?
that was Scruffy Murphy's.
Oh, mate. I mean, come on. They were
I know.
probably about 600 years old, to be fair.
Yes, they were. Um, but in doing so, I learned why it had happened and
Yeah.
what I'd done wrong, and so you need some of those practical experiences. Obviously, they weren't very happy, but we still had a great show.
Oh,
So,
mate, yeah.
as far as I remember, I picked it up and threw it down some cellar stairs.
Wow.
I'll deal with it later.
Yeah. All right, so I'm coming to the end of my questions. You've been brilliant. Is there anything you wanted to kind of go through, or you felt that I really want to talk about this, be it your industry and what you're doing, or have you got any questions for me, buddy?
Questions for the pretty boy.
I'll take that. Right, and that's the end of the interview.
I don't know. I'm just to cap on the end of that. I think if people are interested in getting into these sort of things, obviously it's a bit of a disaster at the moment. We apologise globally, um, but you know, if you don't feel like you're making any headway, just keep pushing.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to get to be doing what I want, but at the same time, there are people 10 years younger than me who I tour with, who I give jobs to. So they're doing extremely well at their age and stuff. So I think you just got to keep pushing forward, and
Persistent, isn't it?
that's it. Be persistent. Annoy people. Ask a lot of questions. You can never ask enough questions.
Yeah.
Do a lot of reading, um, and hopefully you'll push through. But it's much more competitive now than it ever used to be.
Yeah. So when you want to work with an artist or work with or get that gig, do you Do you approach the artist? Do you approach their label? Do you approach their live agent? Or yeah, how do you go about it if you're
It's usually you usually get referred by somebody else,
yeah
so it's sort of word of mouth, effectively. You know, somebody will know you from something,
yeah
and they'll suggest you to an artist, which will get to their management company. You might get an email or a phone call from their management company and saying, you know, can you do this? What would be your rates? You know, what would you need? What would we have to do if you want for us to work? It's a bit of a although you're working for them, it's a bit they're they're inclined to sort of provide to meet your needs as well. So you
yeah
know
totally.
you can stipulate certain people.
Oh, mate. No, that was amazing, mate. So thank you so much for kind of enlightening everyone on sound engineers and front of house and monitor people. I hope to see your beautiful bearded face soon in real life. So yeah, no, thank you, buddy. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody, but don't go anywhere because I'll chat to you afterwards as well. But thank you, Mr. Cole, for joining us. So yeah. So that was the latest instalment of Moving the Spotlight with Charlie Cole, sound engineer. Hope you find it useful and interesting. I know he's a lovely bearded man. So yeah, so tune in next time. We'll be talking to more people within the music industry and showing what they do away from just the usual bands. So yeah, thank you very much. See you later.